Hi, this is Pranav Gua Thakurta from the First Education Channel, EduTV, in students' favorite program, Study Abroad. Our guest today is Mr. Singhal, the famous Mr. Abhishek Singhal. Mr. Abhishek is a mentor and an educator who is looking to make a transformative impact on students. He got educated at some of the best institutions of India and the world, like IIT Delhi, IIM, and MIT, and is now focused on a guidance ecosystem to help students build long-term skills. He helps them to get into top 10 colleges in the world while building a solid base of skills and long-term job readiness. And our students are Harshita Kumar from Delhi Public School, Gautam Budh Nagar, Lavanya Jain, Delhi Public School, Gautam Budh Nagar, Shayan Bhattacharya, Delhi Public School, Saibabad, Raisa Ahmed, DPS Siliguri, Shirang Mahesh, Gaidhani, Delhi Public School, Bangalore East, Arush Ram, Delhi Public School, Bangalore East, and soon Miss Raini Mudgal will be joining from Maxford School, Dwarka. Thank you so much. And Mr. Abhishek can answer all your questions. He had sent many students for Ivy League universities, and from DPS Bangalore, I saw in the website also, he has already sent students to best of the universities in US. Now I'll request Miss Lavanya Jain, Delhi Public School, Gautam Budh Nagar, to put her question. And we have got just 20 minutes. Over to you, Lavanya.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity. I am Lavanya and I'm from DPS GPN. My question is, what kind of financial aid was supporting you at your time and what do you suggest now?
Well, at my time, I did not get any financial aid when I went on to study at MIT. I did my MBA from there. And nothing much has changed now. Typically, students from India, when they go outside to study, they would not get financial aid. Financial aid, as you could surmise, is typically available to people who are residents and citizens of that country because it's typically government sponsored. There's 7 NEET blind universities in the US, which are MIT, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Amherst College, Dartmouth, and Brown. So if you get into these universities, they would support you fully. But barring these, schools are either need aware, which means that they would take into account your financial readiness to give you admissions, or they would not give you any financial support. But there are other ways of reducing cost. For example, you can take advanced placement exams and so on and so forth. But financial aid per se is not available as a general rule. You may want to think of other mechanisms to reduce your cost.
Thank you so much, sir. I would request Shiran from Delhi Public School, Bangalore East.
Hi, Abhishek sir. Good morning. I'm Shriram Gaisani from DPS East. And my question to you is, what do you think gives the advantage to the foreign university as compared to the Indian universities, and how can India improve to become a global leader in education?
Well, that's a very good question, and probably at a policy level. But fundamentally, I think Indian universities are still focused upon unitary education pathways, which means that you study science, you would only study science, especially at higher education level. If you study physics, you will only study physics. I mean, some attempts have been made through new education policy 2020 to integrate multiple disciplines in that education process. Outside, typically in the US, you would find option to choose your learning pathway. So you could, let's say, take economics, you can pair physics with it, you can pair sustainability studies with it. If you want, you can study intellectual property along with all of this and build a holistic understanding of the sustainability ecosystems in the world. So I think that is one of the areas which gives students the advantage, because our careers are multidisciplinary, our careers are integrated. They're not based on only one discipline usually. And therefore, studying outside gives you that advantage in the current time. And I think as India also builds up that ecosystem, which is happening, I think it would become fruitful for students studying at top universities in this country as well.
Much, sir. And I would request Shayan Bhattacharya from Delhi Public School, Sahibabad, to put his question. Over to you, Shayan.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, Shayan.
Sir, my question for today is, what are the prerequisites for taking admission?
Shayan, this is a fairly straightforward question. The prerequisites in general are exactly the same that you would have for getting into any higher education institute in India. So you should have passed your grade 12th. That is the only prerequisite. Apart from that, you need to know the language of instruction, which is essentially English in most cases. And India is not recognized as a formal English speaking country. So you would have to take a proficiency test on that account, such as IELTS or TOEFL. You may also have to take admission tests, generalized admission tests like SAT or ACT. They're not usually deemed very, very difficult, not at the same level as your IITs or NEET preparations are, but they're reasonably simple, more like mental ability, general English tests. So people do them with minimal preparation, but more readiness in terms of how the exam is going to look like. But more importantly, the minimum qualifications are not an indicator of you to get into a school or not. You need to think about how you would be able to differentiate yourself. Like people who would want to go into IITs or medical colleges, for example, they would spend more than a year, couple of years preparing for the exam. You also need to prepare for these universities. And that preparation lies in building out your extracurricular activities, your interests, your academic projects in a manner that you are able to differentiate yourself from the other students. But don't forget that the most important baseline for all of this is that your academic performance should remain top notch through all years of high school. So grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. Did you get your answer?
Yes, sir. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Abhishek. Now I'll request Ms. Raisa Ahmed from Delhi Public School, Siliguri, to put her question. Over to you, Raisa.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Abhishek sir. I am Raisa Ahmed from DPS Siliguri. So my question to you is, like earlier you answered to Lavanya's question, like you talked about the various Ivy League universities like Princeton, Yale, and Harvard. So like how do we prepare for these universities?
It's a very good question, Raisa. So preparation usually starts early. So if you are sitting in grade 12, you are already quite late, because there would be students who would be preparing for them from grade 10, grade 11, or grade 9. So start early, that's number one. Like I said, the baseline for any preparation is academic performance. In this country, a lot of people get above 90% marks, right? If I remember correctly, close to 250,000 people get above 90% marks. So there's a certain amount of grade commoditization, if I may. So academic excellence is absolutely a prerequisite for you to even think about getting into these colleges. So that's your step number one. Step number two, and the sooner you are able to identify your core interest areas, the better it is, because then you could focus upon them. So identify your core interest areas, your passion. It could be music, it could be a particular sports, it could be a particular subject. You could be passionate about maths or physics or whatever. And then you kind of try to build validation in terms of your passion for that particular area. You could do projects, you could do surveys, you could participate in co-curricular and extracurricular activities, and keep doing that for a period of time. As you build a repository of experiences and validation points in a given area, you build strength and you build an ability to position yourself bases that parameter. So you'll have academic proficiency, and on top of it, proficiency in one or two, especially dear areas for yourself. And that is how you kind of differentiate yourself and increase your chances of getting into these. Great.
I think it was a very good question. Now I will request Ms. Harshita Kumar from Delhi Public School, Gautam Buddha Nagar, put her question. And we also welcome Ms. Reni Modgil. She's the counselor of Maxford School, Dwarka. Welcome, Reni.
Hi, Reni.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, sir.
Harshita, over to you.
Yes, sir. Of course. Good morning, sir. I am Harshita from DPS Gautam Buddha Nagar. And my question is, which country seems to be more adjusting for Indian students in terms of comfort, practice, and knowledge gap?
Well, that's a tricky question because adjusting parameters are dependent upon an individual per se, right? A certain person might find it easier to adjust in a particular country because of his or her preferences. That said, if you look at the job outcomes, eventual job outcomes, if you look at return on investment in terms of education, if you look at factors like these, you would find United States of America to be the most salient country in terms of the choices. If you look at the top 50 universities in the world, you would find probably 90% of them are in the US. Other geographies which people like to go to, Canada, or Australia or UK, have some challenges either on account of geopolitical situation or the overall nature of their economy. So if you look at Australia and Canada, you would see they are primarily agrarian economies, with large contributions coming in from tourism, mining, and lumber and agricultural production. So for people who would work in service economies, like most of us would, there are limited avenues for growth. UK, on the other hand, is going through a massive age of reduction in its population. There's a massive crunch in the economy. Plus, there's a war in Europe. So all of these factors have had an impact on UK per se. So in my opinion, my personal opinion, I think US is a most interesting destination because it offers you the best possible ROI on your education. However, it's also the most expensive one for you to study at. So that's why it becomes a slightly tricky proposition as to which country to choose from and which not. Yeah.
Excellent. Arush Ram from Delhi Public School, Bangalore East. Over to you, Arush.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Abhishek, sir. Sir, I have a twofold question for you today. First is, what is, in your opinion, the best way for aspiring engineers to gain industry experience before entering into a college? And I'm talking about, your hardcore engineering subjects, apart from your CS, your civil, mechanical, electronics, communications, etc. It is that, do you think that access to higher education in India is blocked by the fact that not many universities consider your innovative skills and they focus more on the bookish knowledge of the applicant?
Well, I'll respond to both of them. Look, in India or elsewhere in the world for that matter, access to engineering experience before college is very, very minimal. And there's a reason for that. You need to build a fundamental level of skill set before you can seek out the engineering experience. Even after first year in an engineering school, you would not have a lot of engineering experience. So you could probably try to gun for getting an experience along with your studies. As far as undergraduate studies are concerned, as far as bachelor's in technology or bachelor's in engineering degrees are concerned, but not before that, because I think in general, students are not ready. I went to the best of engineering college in India. I went to IIT Delhi. Still, I can say with absolute conviction that I did not know anything about engineering until 2 or 3 years into the college. So probably it's well structured in that manner that you get engineering experience, hardcore engineering experience, industry experience along with your studies or after your studies. As regards to how Indian universities select students, again, they assess you on the knowledge of fundamentals. So physics, chemistry, mathematics, these are the three subjects that you get tested upon. And that is fundamentally any school's greatest proxy to look at who you are. What Indian universities are still not doing are to bake in your extracurricular activities, your non-academic activities in the metrics somehow. But do realize that this is a process and it's going to happen at some point in time. An initial attempt has been made, like I said previously, through new education policy in 2020, which is aiming for multidisciplinary education, credit transfer process, and so on and so forth. So it's a matter of time before a robust mechanism is built to include non-academic experiences of a student into the assessment metric as well. I think, but it will take some time because it's a complex system. So it takes time to take decision, get a buy-in from all stakeholders, and eventually move forward.
Now I request Ms. Raini Modgil. She's the counselor of Maxford School, Dwarka. She counsels roughly all the students out there. Over to you, Raini. Abhishek is there.
Hi, Raini.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Hi, how are you? So
Very
over
well.
here, we have this enthusiastic student who is very keen to ask one question from you.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Sir, I have a question that I am a student of grade 11. My name is Arnav Saha. I want to ask, how can grade 9 and grade 11 students prepare for the Ivy League University? What should be the roadmap?
Okay, I think I covered a part of that answer earlier when Raisa asked me the question, but I'll kind of reiterate some of the important points there. So the first step in you preparing for any top college, specifically Ivy Leagues, is to make sure that your academic performance remains top notch. So you need to make sure that you are in the top 5 or 10 percentile of your students, of your class in grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, and grade 12. Without academic excellence, you would not be in a position to achieve a great outcome in any of the Ivy League schools. That's number one. Number two, you would want to build out your specific elements of your profile. Now, what are those specific elements of your profile? Those specific elements of your profile are based on your interest. If you are passionate about, let's say, computer science programming, or you would like to do projects in computer science programming around the problems that you feel most excited about. Those problems could exist in your society, those problems could exist in your school, and so on and so forth. Or if you're a passionate guitar player, then you would try to see what is it that you can do to showcase and develop your talent in guitar, and so on and so forth. So you identify your core interest and you build that out in terms of the key activities that you're focused upon. And eventually, by the time you hit the start of your grade 12, you would have enough masala, quote unquote, through which you are able to showcase your differentiation, through which you would be able to showcase your uniqueness. And that uniqueness is what you try to project in your essays. That uniqueness is also what gets highlighted by your counselor and your teachers in their recommendation. And potentially that is the one which gets you into a good school.
No, sir, I have got the
Sir,
overview.
okay.
Thank you, sir.
Great, great.
Okay, also if I may ask, lot many students, they have these kinds of question wherein they ask that what could be the apt score, the SAT score, which they will be eyeing for the Ivy League school. Are we eyeing for a particular SAT score or
So
do we have a bracket to it?
I have a very simple answer to it. So SAT score or ACT score is an achievement metric. And it's far less important than the merit metric, which is your performance in grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. Contextually, if you would notice that there are about 9 to 10,000 students in the world who get 100% marks in SAT, like 1600 out of 1600. But the total seats across all Ivy League schools is about 4,000. So which obviously means that they are looking at things which are over and beyond your SAT scores. I mean, you don't want to go beyond a certain threshold, which is usually about 1450, but above 1450, everything is fair game. It then eventually boils down to what your profile elements are, how your merit is stacking up, whether you have taken difficult courses, whether you're challenging yourself, whether you're trying to develop your narrative in a particular unique direction. Not necessarily SAT. SAT is probably the most overhyped, but amongst all of these factors, probably the least important factor. In fact, if you would remember a couple of years back when people were not able to take SATs on account of COVID, schools were still admitting students and they didn't have any problems in doing so. In fact, many students and many schools continue to remain SAT blind. So if you're applying to University of California, UCLA, UC Berkeley, you apply to places like Caltech, they're still test blind. You are actively discouraged to submit SAT scores because they are not going to consider them in their decision metric.
I have just one more question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So because sir have expertise in LORs and SOPs also, if you can just briefly tell us about what are the specific areas which really need to be mentioned and taken care of while writing about the LORs and SOPs.
So the two different documents, right? Letter of recommendation needs to be personal. You cannot, so as to say, be focused on a generic skill set and talk about a student doing well or not doing well at a generic level. If you become personal in terms of specific incidents, if you become personal in terms of specific qualities and examples which demonstrate or back up those qualities, that would ideally become a great LOR. And when it comes to SOP, again, there are many things which go into it, but there are 2 or 3 points which are very, very critical from the student perspective. One, they need to tell a story. You cannot just dump information about all your achievements, all your strengths in one place and expect a great outcome. That is not going to happen. What you need to do is to pick the common element across all your elements, across all your achievements, or pick out the one which is the most strongest and build story around it. A great rule of thumb is to talk more and more about less and less. And as you do so, you will talk in detail about specific things that you have done, and that would allow you to craft a great narrative, give out a validated story, and that is more likely to get you in. Did you get your answer, Reni?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Malvika, we have 5 minutes more with us. If you want to run the presentation, we'll run the presentation out here.
Abhishek, would you like to just probably summarize the whole process or the event?
That'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Sure, Malvika, I will do that. So, look, guys, a lot of us think about getting into good schools. I had the good fortune of getting there. Like I told you, I went to an IIT, I went to an IIM, and eventually went to MIT. The most important thing that one needs to remember is that you are not going outside India to study because it's easier to do so. That is the biggest misconception that a lot of people carry. And when they do that, they end up going to schools which are tier 2 schools or tier 3 schools, which do not give you great outcomes on your education. You don't want to just go to any school in India. You don't want to go to any university in India. You want to go to the best. In a similar manner, one of the key rules that you want to remember when you're thinking about education outside is to gun for a very good school. And when you start doing that, you would realize that it is not easy. It requires a fair amount of preparation. Like you would spend many years, as a matter of fact, preparing for JEE. You would spend many years to prepare for your NEET exam. it requires a similar amount of focus. At least the students who get into the best universities would give that much energy, would give that much focus area to get into those schools. So at UnivAdmitHelp, the company that I run, we work with students in a one-on-one manner, where an Ivy League mentor would work with the student. And you could do that by yourself also. You could do that with the help of your parents or your teachers as well. But what we do is that we work with students to help them identify what they're passionate about. Identify that, look, this is my strength. This particular area is where I would like to focus upon. This is what would become me after 5 or 6 or 10 years. And when you've identified those areas, which could be very, very precise or could be still vague, you could still say that, look, I'm passionate about climate change, and you don't know what you want to do within that. Then you start developing your skills. You start doing projects. I've had students, for example, one student was passionate about big cats in India. Big cats are your leopards and tigers. And this student actually wrote an algorithm which uses the stripes or the spots of the leopard to determine them uniquely and therefore do the census. If you would remember earlier, the census used to be done using the paw marks. Now that was a very dangerous process and was very uncertain also. You would not get very clear results. But using this algorithm, which is developed and eventually gotten patented, he was able to build out a very robust mechanism of doing the census. This also became a part of his profile, which he was eventually able to showcase and get into a top-notch school. So the idea is very, very simple. You need to identify these areas and you need to assiduously develop them in a manner of speaking so that you are able to develop your profile along with academic proficiency. And then when you get to that level, which typically is the beginning of grade 12, you kind of start translating these achievements into a narrative, into a story. I talked about talking more and more about less and less. I talked about telling a story in your application, in your essays. And you do that iteratively. You do that over a number of revisions, because if it would seldom happen that the first draft is a great outcome. So you would iterate, you would write again and again until you reach a point when you say that, look, this is a great outcome. This works for all of us. And that's what becomes your application. That is what you submit. So in a sense, I'm saying there's no easy route to success. You got to work hard. You got to plow the field. And when you do that, great outcomes will certainly follow. This is my broad suggestion, but if you have any specifics, I could delve upon them deeper as well.
What we can do, the students can write the questions to their counselors and we'll forward it to Mr. Abhishek and Ms. Sampath. I'm really thankful to Mr. Abhishek for taking out time. I know today he's very hard pressed with time also. He's got a huge session in the evening. And I would like to thank Ms. Raini Modgil. She's so concerned about students and she helps them a lot. And Malvika, what we can do, we can organize your and Raini's conversation also, so that more and more students of Maxford schools get benefited. And same goes with all the other schools. I would like to thank Raisa Ahmed, Delhi Public School, Siliguri, Srirang from DPS Bangalore East, Harshita from DPS Gautam Budh Nagar, Lavanya from DPS Gautam Budh Nagar, Arush Ram from Delhi Public School, Bangalore East, Malvika Sampath definitely from UnivAdmitHelp, Raini Mudgal, definitely she's helping us a lot all the time from Maxford School, Dwarka, Delhi, and Shayan Bhattacharya from Saibabad. And I'm really thankful to you, Mr. Abhishek. Thank you so much. And we'll keep on disturbing you more often to help all the students. Thank you so much. Bye, whole lot.
Happy to be here. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
I am Harshini Sudarshan. I am a grade 12 student studying at Delhi Public School, Bangalore East. For those of you who are watching, at EduTV, we are having a program where we conduct talks and interviews between students and university outreach heads in order to find out more about the colleges that we want to join in and what these colleges and universities are offering to us. So all of this between a university outreach head and a student in order to get answers to questions that every student like me has. So we're inviting all university outreach heads and students to tune into this. EduTV is also having a taster program, and some of you may know what it is. It is just to get a taste of college life. So students are taken on a visit to the university or the college premises to get a taste of what is actually college life in those 3 or 4 crucial college years of your life. So you get to know about placements, job opportunities, careers of the future, what that college or the university has to offer to you, how campus life is in general. So that's what EduTV has to offer to us. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining with us.